Let's talk to one of those MPs, who's Neil Coyle, Labour MP for Bermondsey and Old Southwark, and also Dan Hodges, who's a commentator for the Mail on Sunday, who's been writing a lot about this in recent weeks and months. Neil Coyle, if I could speak to you first. Good morning to you.
Morning.
You apparently just been whipping up these allegations of anti-Semitism and the failure of the Labour leadership to deal with that. What do you say to that charge?
Yeah, apparently in Len world, that's all I dream of doing. It's all I wake up to do. When actually, on tackling poverty, on tackling homelessness, on tackling the massive rocket in food bank use, Jeremy and I are on the same page. It's absolutely shocking and appalling that Jeremy says there is a problem and we need to get on with tackling it. Then McCluskey turns around and says Jeremy is an idiot and wrong, and we need to ignore the problem and we need to attack the people who say not just that there is an issue, but how to tackle it. So, Len is deliberately undermining and smearing Jeremy Corbyn.
But this is the thing that's quite unusual, isn't it? Is that actually he's the big ally, but he's undermined the efforts that Jeremy Corbyn has made, not necessarily that successful this week, to try and put this matter to rest. I mean, only last week we saw Labour MPs getting standing ovations in the Commons as they talked about the abuse they'd had, whether they were Jewish themselves or they were people like John Mann who have been standing up against anti-Semitism. But only yesterday morning we saw an extraordinary situation where the Jewish MP Ruth Smeeth was attending a disciplinary hearing over an incident in which she was the alleged victim of anti-Semitic abuse, where she had to take 40 Labour colleagues with her as a human shield to protect her from far-left activists, all self-declared Corbyn supporters, Momentum members, who were shouting that this was a witch hunt and this had nothing. This was an attack on Jeremy Corbyn. Is this going to tear the party apart?
Well, there is an issue there around the people who, and bear in mind a lot of them have thrown out the party already, but some of the people who were outside that disciplinary hearing, it should be made clear to them. The rules should be changed. We cannot allow hostility and intimidation in that process. And anyone who thinks it's appropriate to stand outside and try to intimidate, be it an MP, be it any member of the Labour Party going to one of those hearings, they should also be thrown out of the party. The rules should be changed if needed to make it clear that bringing the party into disrepute includes
what these people are doing. Can I ask you,
yeah.
Just finally, Neil Coyle, very briefly, is what Len McCluskey said, this warning you're going to be held to account, is this going to stop you and your fellow MPs, many we've spoken on the show many times, Chris Leslie, Ian Austin, Wes Streeting, John Woodcock and yourself, and many others, is this going to stop you from speaking out?
Our Labour values make it a priority that we tackle racism wherever it occurs. Whether Len likes that or not, we will continue to do that.
Neil Coyle, thank you for joining us, Labour MP. Neil Coyle, let's talk now to Dan Hodges, commentator for the Mail on Sunday, a former Labour Party activist and member, Dan Hodges, but you have been encouraging Labour Party members to tear up their membership cards and even to Labour MPs to declare themselves separate from the party. How bad is this now for Jeremy Corbyn?
Well, I mean, it's as bad as it can get. I mean, obviously, we've had now, finally, an acknowledgement from Jeremy Corbyn that there is a problem of anti-Semitism. I mean, that admission had to be dragged out of him, but he finally admitted it on Tuesday. But then, obviously, went into the meeting with the representatives of the Jewish community and refused to agree to a single concrete proposal that they had put forward.
And they were asking for some pretty basic things, weren't they?
They were asking for stuff as basic as Jeremy Corbyn should say and prevent his MPs from sharing a platform with those who had been expelled from the Labour Party for racism. And he couldn't even do that. He wasn't even prepared to say that they couldn't do that. And then obviously yesterday we had, as you said, Len McCluskey, one of Jeremy Corbyn's most influential ally in the Labour movement, the man who bankrolls the Labour Party, and he stood up and he launched this vicious attack on Labour MPs. And it's worth reading the article because people haven't quite, I don't think, focused on the most important part of the article. In the article, Len McCluskey said that he saw the debate in which Labour MPs articulated their the anti-Semitic experiences that they'd been experiencing, at the hand of Jeremy Corbyn supporters. And Len McCluskey, said the spectacle of them doing that and the spectacle of them receiving applause, as you correctly identified, from all sections of the House, in his words, made his stomach churn. Now, these were MPs who were detailing examples of threats of violence against their family, in one instance threats of rape against members of their family, and Len McCluskey attacked them and threatened them with deselection. And one of the MPs that he specifically named in his piece, one of the MPs he specifically named in his piece was the MP Margaret Hodge. In her speech, she talked of how she told a story of how she went on a visit to Auschwitz. And she said about how when she got to Auschwitz, there was a room where there were a pile of battered briefcases. And she saw one of the briefcases, and on the briefcase were initials. And she realised that it was the briefcase of a member of her own family. Now, these are the people that Len McCluskey, and these are the stories that Len McCluskey was attacking yesterday. These are the people Len McCluskey was attacking. These are the people he was threatening.
But but how damaging is this for? I mean, let's face it, it makes Len McCluskey look like a bully boy. How damaging though is this for Jeremy Corbyn? I mean, some of the scenes we saw yesterday, but also the Jewish MP Ruth Smith having to have a human shield of Labour colleagues to protect her from these far left activists. It would appear that although there is some damage to Jeremy Corbyn in the polls, that he's prepared to accept that damage.
Well, I think you've put your finger on it. I mean, obviously, we have to be honest. I mean, on one level, in terms of the general image for the Labour Party, in any normal political environment, this would be disastrous. Indeed, would be terminal. But obviously, as we all know, for various reasons, we're not living through normal political times. And the reality is, we've got local elections coming up next week, and the reality is, in politics, what really matters and all that matters at the end of the day are votes. And obviously, Labour are expected to do very well in those local elections. Jeremy Corbyn is expected to do very well in those local elections. And I've got absolutely no doubt that if Labour does do well in those local elections, then we will see Len McCluskey, Jeremy Corbyn's other supporters letting out, a whoop of triumph and telling everybody this proves that the smears against Jeremy Corbyn aren't working, and the issue of anti-Semitism is not really something that he and the Labour Party needs to tackle.